This video and all other videos on this channel for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel and it is finally Friday. What a week, eh? What a week. Every week seems to just be a wild week. That I can't remember the last time I had a quiet week, to be honest. I really miss the days of 2014, 2015, 2016, those times were a lot easier for traders, let me tell you. I want to open today with the memes writing themselves. We've got DT launching his own DeFi protocol or something like that. Now, I don't know. He launched NFTs. They did terribly. Is this going to do well? I doubt it, personally. But then again, I would say that, as you know, I'm quite biased towards altcoins. I don't really like them. They just seem to want to distract people from actually owning the only sound money, the only true digital scarcity, and that, of course, is Bitcoin. Now, you can disagree. You can say you're a toxic maxi. You know, that's neither here nor there. But to me, it seems like if you were going to pick one, why not pick Bitcoin? Okay, that's always been my approach. And of course, if you do well with altcoins, then I'm genuinely happy for you. I want people to succeed. That's why I spend so much of my time producing YouTube content. But is this what we could consider to be the smart money bet? I'm not convinced. Is it more likely, in my opinion, to be a distraction to get you to do anything apart from buy and cold store and own Bitcoin? Yes, I suspect so. Perhaps I, again, am being too tinfoil hatty about this, and perhaps instead of it being some kind of psyop or distraction, perhaps this is just, he went to the Bitcoin conference and he got the votes from the Bitcoiners right now. Perhaps he wants to get the DeFi degens and the meme coins are coming next. Who knows? But either way, this was certainly not on my bingo card this year. And unfortunately, I kind of feel like this takes away from some of the credibility of the things he was saying behind Bitcoin. Let me make this clear, because I get a lot of questions about what I think the impact of the elections will be, and the absolute truth is I don't think they're going to make a scrap of difference. I don't think anything is stopping this train. I think the market's going to do what the market's going to do, and as always, we are going to append a narrative to explain away any kind of price action that develops. And remember, it's really easy to do that. So let's say DT gets in and the market goes up, okay? The market will say, yep, well, it's the Trump pump, right? That's what they'll say. And if the market goes down, then the narrative will probably be, well, they handed it over to this guy and they knew he couldn't possibly save it. They knew they'd created a great reset or whatever. And if the other woman gets in, okay, she'll be out here on these streets declaring victory. And if the market goes up, then they'll just say, well, clearly she doesn't have any control, doesn't have any power, or maybe that she's creating a bubble. And if it goes down, they'll go, yeah, well, that's because we should have voted for this guy. So my humble opinion is none of that actually matters at all. And what we should be focusing on is the cycles. If you're a member of any level, you've seen the cycles video I put out. I think that is the biggest piece of alpha that we could possibly be entertaining viewing. And if you haven't seen it, it's coming out for everyone else on Sunday. The weekend deep dive will be on Saturday as always. So lots of fire content coming out this weekend for all of you. The next thing I wanted to point out is Trueflation. Okay, Trueflation now at 1.06. This is starting to make me think either we're going to be in deflation by November or maybe there's some huge divergence here. Maybe they've got one of these data errors and maybe they're going to have to do some fixing here. I'm not entirely sure, but if this is anywhere close to the real number, and as I often say, I believe Trueflation has less motive to fudge the data than the government does, then we are going to be in a whole heap of recessionary and deflationary bear markets very soon. So I hope this isn't quite as bad as it is, but again, if it is, then it just kind of fits with that melt-up chart, right? We are back to almost 50-50, or let's say 60-40 for the rate cuts, so all of a sudden, 50 basis points is being put back on the table. Remember, they are 150 basis points behind the curve, so 50 basis points still is going to leave us, let me check my maths, 100 basis points behind the curve, right? And again, I suggest to you guys that they don't really want to help markets. They want to tank them. They want to cause a deflationary spiral. That's why they continue to be late. So I wouldn't be surprised if they only do a 25, but even if they do a 50, like I said, they are still well behind the curve. Moving into the world of Bitcoin and gold, I've got some fantastic things to show you. I'm actually really excited to show you this. So first of all, as Tony points out here, okay, check out the symmetry of the market. He takes this parabola from the prior bull run, okay, clones this parabola. Did I say that weird? And then drags it across. And notice how the symmetry of the market is repeating to the tick. Now, of course, it doesn't mean we couldn't break down, okay? It certainly doesn't mean that we could not violate this to the downside or meander sideways out of here. Both of those are entirely possible. But if this really is 1 into 2, 3 into 4, then what comes next is the 5th. So I know a lot of people give me stick when I say now or never, because it's been now or never for all of this time in here, okay? But hopefully you can appreciate now or never does not pertain to time, it pertains to the charts, okay? Lose this parabola, and we've got the never situation. Continue to hold this parabola, and we are in the now situation. It has admittedly been now or never for something like 6 months, and I'm sure people are absolutely sick of that, and I understand completely, but hopefully these next few charts are going to brighten up your day just a little bit. On the left, we've got gold, okay? 1 into 2, 3 into 4, with 4 touching the super trend before the 5th. Notice how we also got 1 into 2, 3 into 4, with a trendline breakout on the RSI into 5, okay? Now, look at the right-hand side of the screen. What have we got? 1 into 2, 3, potentially into 4, with a touch of the super trend, looking for that 5th. If it can just emulate the structure that gold has already shown us, then we will be at 100k in no time. And similarly, we've also got the RSI shaping up to be very, very similar indeed. But we are just getting started in terms of gold and Bitcoin. For context here, okay, weekly cycle low. This was kind of difficult to deal with, but we went daily cycle 1, right translation, daily cycle 2, right translation. We're now working on a right translated, potentially, daily cycle 3. And then, if you're familiar with the cycle work, if you've downloaded the PDF that's in the pinned comment, you will have seen left translated cycle followed by that weekly cycle low, which is also the yearly cycle low for gold. The implications of this gold chart is we are going to have one final push higher, okay, daily cycle low, then a lower high and a rollover. Okay, now it could, let's be honest, it's a market, anything could happen. See something akin to this, daily cycle low, higher high and a rollover. That could certainly be the case. But given that this is both a weekly and a yearly cycle low in focus, we should probably be looking for, like I said, 1, 2, 3, left translation into 4. And that gives us our weekly and our yearly cycle. So why is this important to understand? Because that tells us if cycles are going to behave how the textbook example should play out, if this is going to be a very, very clean 3 rights and a left translation, then it tells us this is the final push for gold, okay? Now, here's why that is so significant. Number 1, it's occurring on a backdrop of a lot of people talking about how nobody has noticed. Nobody has noticed that gold is at all-time highs, okay? But if you type in gold, nobody's noticed into Twitter, you will see hundreds of people saying gold just printed an all-time high and nobody's noticed, okay? Now, for the long-time viewers of the channel, you know that back here for gold, I was looking for a short into a weekly cycle low. And we didn't get a deep plunge into a weekly cycle low like it's typical for gold. Instead, what we got was more of a choppy sideways timing-based cycle low, and then we exploded and broke above the prior all-time high. Okay, now in here, I had to hold my hands up and say I was completely wrong, I'm not short anymore, and I'm going long. And we caught a bunch of this move here. We kind of missed most of this because the cycles were very, very choppy. And then of late, in this kind of neighborhood, we've been getting underneath some minor positions and finally taking this last push on spot gold. But back here, I can tell you for sure those kind of tweets were warranted, okay? So this is the first point. Back here, when gold broke to all-time highs, nobody gave a flying monkey's tail. Let me tell you that for sure. Okay, but in here, now everyone seems to think nobody cares and nobody notices. But in fact, like I said, these tweets are all over Twitter. So that tells me right at the top of both the yearly and the weekly cycle and the final daily cycle that is expected to produce a higher high, suddenly everyone has started to pay attention to it. What does that set us up for very nicely? It sets us up for the next one to left translate and decline, forcing everyone to go, I told you gold was worthless, told you gold is a boring thing to trade, okay? And that will be the area where we can load the boat, particularly for a bunch of gold and silver miners, and I've even been building a list of a bunch of individual names that I am looking to accumulate in the longer term accounts out of this yearly cycle low. So that's the first thing, okay? That is the first thing. But again, why does this matter to Bitcoiners? Why does this matter to crypto investors? And of course, the answer is I think it's gold's final daily cycle, as discussed already, and therefore it should soon be Bitcoin's time to shine. Why do I say that? Because when gold runs, okay, Bitcoin consolidates. Let's get this straight. This is gold in blue running here to the upside. And during this time, Bitcoin here consolidates, chops around, okay? Then gold rolls over. And what do we see? Bitcoin move into expansion. What happens here? Same deal, okay? Gold rallies whilst Bitcoin gets stuck around the prior all-time high level. Then gold tops, rolls over, and we see Bitcoin move higher. We see the exact same thing here, okay? Gold is running whilst Bitcoin is kind of chopping around. I know it had this C19 shakeout, but it was sideways for a very long time, although that is a 70% range top to bottom. When gold tops and rolls over, Bitcoin goes and does Bitcoin things. Now, what have we got today? We've got gold inside of its final expected bullish daily cycle. We've also got it making bearish divergence indicative of waning momentum, and thus we should be expecting this thing to top and roll over in the not too distant future. Okay, we're talking sometime around 2 to 3 weeks at the most. We should be expecting a top to come in for gold, telling us that in 2 to 3 weeks we should be seeing gold do something akin to this. Okay, not that deep necessarily, but some kind of topping structure, some kind of rollover similar to this or this or this. And of course, Bitcoin should be ready to break out of its massive consolidation and do Bitcoin things once more. Note the timing cycles here. Gold's top was right in time for the timing band, okay? Gold's true move to the downside was right on that timing schedule again. Gold's ultimate peak and move down was right on that timing band again. And right now you can see we are slightly late, okay? Now what do we know about when we get slightly stretched in cycles? We know the move to the downside tends to happen quickly to make up for the excess time, to make up for being late. Again, all of this says to me gold has one final push against a backdrop of everyone thinking now it's time to pay attention because no one's paying attention, when in fact that moment was back here at the prior all-time high break. And we know that this move is showing waning momentum, bearish oscillator divergence, and is right inside the timing band to see a top come in. That lines up with the cycles, and like I said one more time, that tells us to be open to seeing Bitcoin do Bitcoin things. Of note here, I'm expecting something akin to this for gold, okay? Some kind of big decline, weekly and yearly cycle, as I said, load the boat on those miners, individual mining stocks, ETFs, gold and silver, and then I am expecting a rip-roaring bull market for the precious metals. But of course, like I said, if you're a crypto investor, this is the thing you want to be focused on in the short to medium term, as well as Bitcoin's hash ribbon flashing another buy signal. Historically, this has been one of the most reliable indicators for Bitcoin, and every time we've seen this signal, it's often followed by a massive pump in Bitcoin. Again, the stars seem to be aligning here to see some further upside for the price of Bitcoin. And the last thing I wanted to show you before we get into a few charts is the S&P 500. We're going to call this fun with fractals, okay? Now, as you know, my opinion is quite strong on fractals. I do not think they're much used for trading. I do not think they provide much alpha in terms of trade setups or executionable or actionable trade setups, but I do think they're interesting to consult, okay? This particular fractal says that we may well be up only in a massive bull market. Let's call this the roaring 20s fractal in the middle, okay? Oh, I should say here, this is one of the main reasons I'm not a big fan of fractals, okay? Because people tend to find the one that fits their bias. For example, say it's this one. Say you're in the camp of the roaring 20s. You will only present this on Twitter and say, look how correlated we are. 98% correlation, right? But my biggest pet peeve with fractals is I've never seen anyone present all of them, okay? For every fractal you can find that suggests we're doing a roaring 20s, you'll also be able to find the equal amount showing that we're going to go into a blow off top and an equal amount that the top is already in and about to move lower. So I have no problem with fractals when people put their biases aside and show all of them like this and like we're going to look at in just a second. Like I said, I think you need to watch for the people that just grab one fractal that fits their bias and then never consult another one. So with that said, we got a roaring 20s fractal, okay? That would be pretty cool, but I don't think we're getting it. Moving down here, you can see this fractal here, okay, where my cursor is, tells us to expect a big push to a blow off top. The one underneath tells us to expect a top, which is pretty much already in, okay? Marginal higher high, bit of distribution, and a long and grueling rollover. This fractal right here tells us that we've got a big high before a shakeout and then perhaps a rip-roaring bull market. You can see the one beneath tells us to expect perhaps one marginal higher high and then a big distributive top. This one right here suggests that there might be one new higher high. This one right here suggests the top may well already be in and we're about to form a lower high and roll over. That speaks to this distribution pattern that I was warning about over the past couple of weeks. We've got another welcome to the roaring 20s bull market fractal here, and a similar deal, a big push to a new high before a sharp correction and the resumption of a primary trend. We've also got another distributive fractal right here, okay? Is this what's coming? Some kind of choppy nastiness. This is going to be a pain to trade. Breakouts will fail, cycle lows will fail before ultimately selling a trendline breakdown. Hopefully we don't get something like that, but we can't rule it out. I do think this is probably the second most likely. I think the first is a big blow off top. And lastly, we've got another one that shows we may well already be in this kind of distributive sideways churn and may well remain there for some time before ultimately resuming to the upside. So I'm sure you will have noticed in the last few videos, my attitude and approach to markets has left kind of easy mode, right? We've stopped pointing at bears and laughing at them. We've stopped coining terms like the double top gang, right? We've stopped mocking and jeering the top callers and the doomsayers and the recession callers, and we've actually almost become one ourselves, right? But the reason for that is quite simple. We are now in a complex time. We have no idea whether we're in the roaring 20s, whether we've got a big blow off top and a huge bear market, whether we've got some kind of distribution top, whether the top is already in, okay? Or whether there is just one little push to the upside before rolling over. We have absolutely no idea. And there's nothing easy about this part, okay? When the market is just tearing higher, this is easy mode, but I believe we have left easy mode now. So I wanted to share this with you because, as you can see, there's a lot of complexity and you will be able to find people posting fractals, but notice, now I've pointed it out to you, that they do only ever find one that fits their bias, perhaps, or that can garner fear and attention, and then pretend like none of these other fractals exist. Like what I'm seeing out of the Dixie here, okay, let's hope and pray for a new lower low. That would be fantastic. Then we can start to look for a 3-year cycle low and talk about true deflationary busts. That would be, I was going to say that would be cool. Not that I'm wishing for a deflationary bust, right? But what I don't want to see is the dollar just find a bottom here and then break out. I don't really want to see that. I think if we want a blow off top rather than a distribution top, we need to see this thing break down to new lows. So far so good. I think this is making our life a little bit easier. How are we talking for the bond market? Yeah, we're still telling it to the bond market. I see a bunch of people saying, what if the Fed doesn't cut? I don't think that's likely, but I mean, who knows, right? If they do something stupid like don't cut, then we are going to tank. I saw some people talking about they're going to save the dollar by not cutting. Well, I don't know. It doesn't seem reasonable to me, but then again, these are kind of unreasonable times. The CME is not usually wrong, especially when it's this close to the FOMC meeting, and it is pricing in around 50-50 for that 25 or 50 basis point cut. So I would think we do see a cut. Good news is we'll find out pretty soon, right? We'll find out next week. Bitcoin's still chilling, okay? Still too early to really say which way it's going to go. So no point in guessing. We'll just let the market prove to us which way it's going to go. Here's gold, okay? Excuse my messy chart. It will be cleaner than this pretty soon, I hope. But you can see breakout, okay? Looking for that final push, looking for that cycle low, and then looking for a left translation and down into my timing window as the members are fully aware of. I'm just noticing silver is giving us a breakout potentially today above the $30 level. This could well be a trade setup for me. Not really a fan of taking positions on a Friday, but I have been talking about this breakout for a very long time. I should probably clean this line up, but I won't waste your time and do that now. Oil looks to have found a daily cycle low swing, but again, we are expecting left translation and down into that weekly cycle low. So happy days there. I do see some people looking for a 4-year cycle low here. I think it's too early personally. VIX, what a blessing, okay, so far. Pay attention to this. This is probably, I was saying this last year. I was saying if the VIX can do something like this whilst we get a blow off top, then long the VIX will end up being the trade, one of the trades of this decade. The OGs know this, but I ended up abandoning ship on this idea and saying, look, I'm too early, right? I'm premature. Mrs. Camel knows all about that. So I kind of abandoned ship on this idea for the OGs. And I said, look, we're not walking away from it, but we need to put it on the back burner. There's no point calling for it now when we need to, let the trade setup play out. And I said many, many times, when it's time to get long the VIX, I will start to cover it again. Now, this is what I am hoping for. Okay. And I really think if we can get down below these lows, and who knows if we can or not, but if we can down here, I think I'm going to start to accumulate my hedges. So the dream setup is to get all the way down to 8, because then you only need about 2 points of stop loss, and there's almost no chance we're going to get stopped out on a trade like that. But will the market give it to us? I don't know. Okay, but for now, this is very, very encouraging. I do believe if we can get down here and get some exposure and time it with the top coming in for the stock market, then this will, upon reflection, okay, much later in life, be looked back on as one of the trades of the decade. I'm convinced of that. To buy close to the bottom and sell some huge spike into the 3 figures, I'm sure this is going to be one of the trades of the decade when we look back on it. So as ever, let's not put dollar signs in our eyes. Let's not start wondering, I wonder how much money I can make if I long the bottom. Okay, let's see if we can get the setup. Let's see if we can find a clear cycle low. Let's see if we can actually find a clear bottom in structure and a breakout, and then we can see about getting some hedges on. Russell 2K, it doesn't know what it wants to do, does it? It really doesn't. So we'll just keep pushing this trade and see what the market can give. Dow Jones has been quite choppy, almost got stopped out, but seems to be resuming to the upside. Okay, so a strong close this week would look fantastic on the weekly chart and would give me a lot of confidence that we are indeed going to start to be looking for third angles. Nasdaq right into the second angle again and still not made the repair above the blue, so there is still some risk and danger here, but the S&P looks a great deal better. Okay, the S&P looks like it has left behind a half cycle low on day 23 right here. And if we zoom in, which is not something I'm a big fan of, zoom in right in on charts, but we need to for this case. Half cycle low, okay, back test to form a double bottom and then strong push off. I think we've probably got another half a cycle left ahead of us. Probably going to be looking for something akin to a day 35 high, let's say day 35, day 36. And then a few day decline, which I think will be quite sharp and sudden into both a daily and potentially a weekly cycle low. So far so good. Okay, so far so good. Needless to say, there will be a deep dive tomorrow. So please come back and watch that. I will edit in all the new inflation data and talk about the expectations for those kind of things. Like I said, the members have already seen it, but if you're not a member, there's also a cycle video that is called something along the lines of mind-blowing cycle analysis, because it blew my mind. So that's coming out on Sunday. Make sure you check that out. Please do hit the subscribe button. And other than that, I hope you're doing well in life. Have a fantastic weekend. Until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.